Why, hi there, it's Uncle Ron, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite ways to do a replay, which is a single team replay. It doesn't necessarily mean, let's first of all, you can do this in anything you'd like. Single team or single player if you're doing tennis or golf or a boxer or something like that. It is one of my favorite ways to do it because you can do it pretty much any way you'd like, because after a while everything is going to become so familiar to you that the player or team comes alive. It's no longer numbers. Get rid of the jittery on the screen for me. It's no longer numbers on a card or a data file. They almost take in a human type performance. Who, if you got a pitcher on the mound that you don't necessarily go, oh no, here he is again. I gotta use him. He's my only fresh pitcher, and you need to work 6 innings out of him. And by goodness, he gives you 7, and you make him love him again. And then the next time out, he gets rocked for 8 runs or whatever. I'm doing this a couple different ways. Again, single team replay doesn't mean that it's the only team that you play. You can do 2 teams or 3 teams. I'm talking anything really short of a half or a full, where primarily you focus on 1, 2, or 3 teams at a given time over the course of, set the parameters for your season. It doesn't necessarily have to be a full season replay. I mean, a short project is, one second. The thing about not being able to use your hands to scratch yourself is that when you have an itch, you got to stop and do it, and then just can't move the hand up in it. Anyway, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full season replay. For baseball, it's as simple as maybe 3 on the road against every team that you want to play and 3 at home, just to give you a sense of what that is. That could be a quarter season, depending on what you want to do. So that's as little as 40 games. Football, I have read some projects over the years where there was a guy that did strat for a number of years for football, played the Green Bay Packers, and he only played games in Green Bay's division. I mean, really, the sky is the limit for how you want to set it up and what you want to do and all that. And again, the more you play with a given team, the more real or the more realistic it's going to feel you. You're going to know what to do and what not to do. I strongly suggest that if you ever do that, that you don't do it as played. I think people look at teams from their youth or whatever, and because all that information is out there as far, especially in baseball, is as played, I'm talking a single team project here more than a series, but anywhere from 20 games to 160 games. Because so much information is there and you don't want to make a mistake, and so you go to the as played, so you make sure that everything is there and everything's right. Well, let me tell you, chances are, unless you are doing the 85-86 Celtics or the 2007 New England Patriots or the 72 Miami Dolphins or some other great, fantastic team, they left you high and dry in some place. And so maybe the first few games do it that way, but you're the manager. And as I've often said, or the coach, and as I've often said on the show, once the rubber bands come off or you take the cards out of the envelope, it's all fictional anyway. Players that might have excelled in real life to start the year or whatever, or were used, may not be doing that in your replay. And why would you want to get stuck with a Bryce Harper who strikes out 1,000 times with runners in scoring position, like with the 2017 Washington Nationals, which I'm currently doing a project on, but I haven't done a video on, and he's hitting 200 and driving me absolutely batty. You're able. Egos don't matter here. Your superstar isn't hitting, bat him 7th. Set him on the bench. Move him down the 3rd line. And again, you can do this with any sport. It just is, you're just, instead of taking the time that maybe it's fixing a wrong, maybe you just want to curb stop some other teams or whatever. But I've done a number of these single team replays, and again, I really enjoy them. And the challenge is, once you get to know the team, how do you get the most out of them? And I think after a while, it really does kind of become secondhand. You know who you can count on to get you that out, to take that shot, to who's not going to commit a penalty, to get you that birdie that you need, or anything like that. It becomes real, and the immersion is there if you trust it. Now, again, not every game is perfect, and every game has flaws, and blah, 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 blah. But after a while, again, for me, the whole thing is you just get to know the players, and you know where to use them, and you can hold your breath when someone who can't score a goal gets a shot on goal, maybe scores, you pass out, or whatever. And again, doesn't matter the game engine, doesn't matter the sport. I just think that it will increase your comfort playing these games by doing that. Increase your comfort because you're the ones that are making more decisions. Whether you do it as played, I'll go again, that's not something I would necessarily recommend. As carded, that's a heck of a challenge. But don't adjust for what was going on in real life. Adjust for what is going on your table or on your PC and build that way. I did a full, and I don't have the stats for this anymore, 75-76 New York Islander replay in Action PC. And the Islanders would overexert in the regular season and crash and burn the first few years in the playoffs. But numbers are numbers, and we don't deal with emotions and egos and money and all that. And they made the Stanley Cup final. And they went into Montreal and won Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final. Then they got crushed, but I got them to the final, and it was fun. And the more we played in every city you went to, and, you know, if you do a full season single team replay, then you see everybody. And again, it doesn't matter, you know, who played on what on that given night. To me, because I think you have a significant advantage because you are that familiar with one team. I always play them against the best. If they're dressed, they go. And because you are going to have that advantage, you know who to use in the right situations and who you kind of got to go, oh, I need you to get me 3 outs, please, please, please. Or, and how to do that. I think it teaches you, you know, roster management. And again, it may not be, you know, if you take a bad team and get, let's say, 5 or 6 more wins or push them to closer to 500. In football, you can do that because a lot of games, the average margin of victory is usually 3 to 4 points. And you can flip a couple of games around. You can turn a terrible team into a good team. Just look at the 78 Kansas City Chiefs as a good example of how Al, Red Sox fan, got them in the playoffs in pro strategy football. And years ago, I got them in the playoffs in Action PC. Al, I think, played out that whole season. I just parachuted in. I know that most of the stuff that you see me do, especially the live streams, are parachute in as played to do projects, but I do that because it's easier to do. A, it's even for everybody, and B, I'm not doing a single team's game. I don't, you know, if I might do a team over the course of a week 3 or 4 times, I'm not clear always on who I should be using and how much were they used in the last few days and all that. I treat it as a broadcaster. You're coming in, you make the best decision. As a single team replay, it's concerned, you're the one making all the managerial decisions, coaches' decisions. You can use the player as much or as little as you want. I mean, they're guidelines. I mean, if you want to overuse, hey, it's your replay. If you want to be strict, not what I would recommend. But, you know, if a guy's 100 at-bats, you know, obviously it's up to you. If you want him to have 500, then give him 500. But, you know, you do what you feel is best. And again, I think if you just did that as far as a single team, you know, after 10, 15 games or whatever, again, for me, they just become so real. And you know the strengths and weaknesses, and then it might be a project that you get done. Because, you know, in baseball, okay, you lose 4, 5, 6 in a row. Well, guess what? Averages are going to come out, and you're going to beat teams that maybe you didn't think that you should, or you get that performance from a pitcher that you didn't think was there, or, again, you bench the star player because they left on 23 runners in 7 games. I'm not necessarily making that up, Bryce Harper. So again, if you've never done it before, I highly recommend you do it. And again, take the training wheels off. You decide who's dressed for those. Those projects, I mean, again, for me, are the best just because you get to know everybody. And it becomes more than just reading the results on a card and writing the result down. You become more into what you're doing. It becomes a more enjoyable experience, win or lose. And if you start losing, then maybe, okay, if I do this instead of that, maybe things will change, or maybe we'll get, different fluke. But again, I think it's a good way for someone to get away from always playing as played. Try it. You never know if you like it. And thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you the next time.